What if they came out with a pill that you could take and it was just like an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety pill, and it switches off your Asperger's, and you can keep on taking it for the rest of your life if you never want your Asperger's back, or you can try it for a week and then go, you know what, I preferred myself before, and you can stop taking it. If such a thing existed, would you take it? Would you try it? And how different would you be if you did? What parts of you do you think are innate beyond your autism? Suddenly you're going to be able to read all these signs and signals that you've never been able to read before. You know, people look at you in a certain way and suddenly you know what it means. That would feel wild. That would feel like a total superpower. So hello YouTube, and welcome to a very theoretical video sponsored by my overactive brain. Now, if you are autistic, you have probably encountered some discussion about the morality politics of ever curing Asperger's, as to whether we are something that ever should be cured, whether we ever should be eradicated, or whether we are a different sort of human that should be allowed to exist and thrive, which obviously we should. But nonetheless, I find it interesting, this idea of a cure for Asperger's. Now, I think it's very, very unlikely that they will ever be able to come up with something that you can take and it just cures you, because you're not just talking about a slight difference in the brain, you're talking about a huge difference in our brains compared to neurotypical people, and that is something that I don't think you will ever be able to cure, hence the vast moral maze of curing Asperger's, because realistically, to cure Asperger's, you would probably have to find a way of diagnosing autistic children in the womb and then aborting them, which is obviously morally dubious to say the least, and some people have literally likened it to genocide, which I guess is kind of what it almost would be. But still, for me personally, I keep getting hung up on this idea of, like, what if though? What if they came out with a pill that you could take and it was just like an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety pill, so you take it and it switches off your Asperger's, and you can keep on taking it for the rest of your life if you never want your Asperger's back, or you can try it for a week and then go, you know what, I preferred myself before, and you can stop taking it. If such a thing existed, would you take it? Would you try it? And how different would you be if you did? I am really fixated on this idea because obviously there are a lot of pros and cons. That if you are like me, an adult Aspie, there are going to be things that your autism gives you that you kind of regard as superpowers. And would it be worth losing those to have a more comfortable overall life experience, to fit in better? Would it be worth losing those? And beyond that, who would you be? Like, what parts of you do you think are innate beyond your autism? So for me personally, given that I have taken antidepressants in the past and I have taken anti-anxiety pills, so I know basically how it feels to have certain parts of your brain chemistry kind of switched off and switched on and all the rest of it. One of the things that would be the most fascinating for me would be, do my addictive tendencies go away? Because a huge part of my addictive tendencies, I think, relate to the hypersensory experience of being an Aspie. That everything is dialed up too high, nothing is ever really comfortable for me, like everything is always too uncomfortable. There is always something that is distracting and too much and all of that, and that I think is the main thing that drew me towards numbing behaviours. So things like self-harm, eating disorders, opiates, things that just numb things out and that just cut out some of the sensory experience and that just keep you calmer and more centered and better focused. If I could take away all of the hypersensory crap that Asperger's gives you, would I suddenly find that I was really centered and really calm and really comfortable in my own skin, and suddenly I would have no more need for addictive crutches? That would be, like, if it would do that for me, that would be a big plus. But on the other hand, I think probably just like most people, there are some elements of the hypersensory experience that I really enjoy. So obviously, like, my sense of smell is probably the most obvious one. If you know me at all, you know I am a huge perfume obsessive. Like, my nose is a bit crazy. I can smell an incredible richness in things. Like, I will often mention things on Instagram or whatever, and people will be like, wait, snow has a smell? Or like hot water has a smell? Or, you know, like neurotypical people, that it's crazy to me how much is lacking for them of the experience of smell. That for me, I can go out and I can stalk someone who is vaping for probably about half a mile or more when I'm out walking at night, because I can smell them. I can smell their vape smoke lingering about half a mile behind them. And if I'm just walking and I'm not going anywhere particularly, sometimes I will start stalking the smell just to see if I can catch them up, and oftentimes I do. I can stalk them for like half a mile. I sound nuts. And the other thing is, when I walk into my house, I can tell if there's been a stranger there, because I can smell a stranger. I can smell someone has been there, even if it was hours prior. I know they've been there. So it would be very, like, would it be like having a bad cold if I suddenly switched that off and I suddenly just couldn't smell anything? I would hate that. Another thing I think would happen if I was to switch off my Asperger's, and this would be horrible, is that I think I would suddenly be very, very lonely. Neurotypical people baffle me quite a lot, because of how easily manipulated they can be when it comes to the pursuit of love and friendship and company. That I have seen people really be sucked into abusive relationships because they can't bear being alone. They need someone else. They need to be around someone else all the time. And even if that person is destructive and abusive and unpleasant, they desperately have this yearning to be around other people. Whereas me as an Aspie, I don't have that. I am happy so long as I'm busy doing my stuff and living on planet me, and basically, you know, doing my writing, immersing myself in the world of my characters, editing YouTube. I'm very happy solo, and I think that has got to be an autistic thing. Like, I don't think I've ever met a neurotypical person who is so happy to be alone all the time as I am. So if I was to switch off my Asperger's, I think I would suddenly be hit by this tidal wave of loneliness that would be awful. It would suddenly be like, dude, I don't really have any close friends anymore. I think all of that stuff would really get to me, and I would suddenly be like plugged desperately into dating apps and kind of sobbing into into a tub of ice cream watching Bridget Jones's Diary and wondering what went wrong with my life and why did I concentrate so much on like writing and YouTube and career type stuff when I should have been making friends, and where are all the people, and I need some people. And I think that would really, really suck. That's kind of one of these things that I think neurotypical people find it very hard to understand. Like, my parents definitely find it very hard to understand, or my neurotypical parents anyway. My biological dad, I'm like 99% sure is also autistic, and he's pretty chill with his own company too. Like, he, you know, he hangs out with people, but he's basically happy to be alone, and he cannot stand other people being in his house with him. So he's very much like me. But my neurotypical parents, they despair. They really do. Like, they don't get how someone can be happy and healthy without having, you know, huge, deep, constant friendships in their life and social events in their life and all of that. And so I think that would hit me very hard, and that would be very, very strange. As far as the things about me that I think would change, that's really hard to say, isn't it? Obviously, Asperger's comes with obsessive interests, but I suspect the things we're interested in as Aspies, we would probably still have those interests, right? Even if we were neurotypical, they just might have been fleeting interests that we dropped when we kind of hit puberty, or they would be more balanced. Like, the way a lot of people seem to describe Asperger's is that rather than having this very balanced a table of skills like most neurotypical people that, you know, they can cook for themselves, feed themselves, socialize, do a job. They can do all these things relatively well. Whereas with Asperger's, it's like all your talent is like bunched into one place. And where you have that talent, it's a huge talent. But the deficit is everywhere else. So for me, it's like, well, my writing, the only reason that I'm reasonably good now is that I went at it with completely autistic obsession for, what, like 9 years or something now, and all my friendships died because I was too busy writing. But my writing in the beginning, much as I loved doing it, dude, it sucked. It was terrible, and only because I spent that much time doing it and that much obsession doing it did it get any good. So I think if I was neurotypical, I never would have improved so fast. It would have taken me at least 3 times as long to get to where I am now. So when it comes to the situation of theoretically taking an Asperger's cure pill, what would happen to my writing ability? Like, yes, I've practiced and practiced and practiced through autistic obsession, so I have my skills now, I think. But how much of that is because of autism? Because I think my memory for words is also quite autistic. There are a lot of times when I'm writing that a word will come to mind and I don't know how to spell it. I'm not even sure what it means. I don't remember where I heard the word, but I put it in my writing and then I'm like, hang on, is this a real word? I go to Google, it turns out I spelled it perfectly. It means exactly what I had a feeling it means. I don't know where I got it from, but it's right. That happens to me quite a lot, and it's crazy. It's like some spirit or something just dropped it in my head. I don't know where I got it from. It's like my memory for words is very autistic. That even things that I've read once that are very strange, obscure words, like they stick with me and they come up when I need them, and I worry that I would lose that if I was to take this autistic cure pill. I think I would lose that. And then of course there's the subject matter of my writing. That would the stuff I wrote about be more neurotypical? Like, would I want to write love stories and romantic comedies and things like that, things that are more people-centric than the stuff that I write? And then there's the gender thing as well. Someone commented, I made a post yesterday about gender stuff on Instagram, and someone dropped me a comment about the fact that a lot of autistic females do identify more as male the way I do, which is something I've read before. And my theory on this is probably that autistic female brains are probably closer to neurotypical male brains than anything else, that our brains are socially better than autistic males, but we're nowhere near socially up to the level of neurotypical females. So when it comes to neurotypical males and females socially, whenever I've tried to befriend groups of women, I don't understand the unspoken rules. I don't understand the high level of social communication and unspoken communication that goes on between women. I can't read that well. But when it comes to males, like neurotypical males, everything's a lot simpler. They don't have these unspoken rules. If they don't like someone, they just tell them to fuck off or they hit them in the face. It's all a lot simpler, to generalize completely. But so I think that's probably, I mean, that's just my theory on it, but I think that is why probably a lot of autistic females do identify as being more like males, because we find them easier to communicate with, we find them easier to relate to. But would that go away? If I took like an anti-autism pill for a day, would I suddenly feel more at home being female? Would I want to embrace femininity more? I mean, it would be wild, wouldn't it? If you suddenly, to take the really, really good thing about this, I guess, would be, how crazy would it be to suddenly have these extra senses? Like, yes, you're going to lose some senses. You're going to lose your intense sense of smell and taste and touch and all the rest of it. But suddenly you're going to be able to read all these signs and signals that you've never been able to read before. You know, people look at you in a certain way and suddenly you know what it means. Or yeah, hanging out with groups of girls, and suddenly you get the unspoken rules and you get all of this. Like, that would feel wild. That would feel like a total superpower if you could suddenly get that. And like, how much would it change your experience of day-to-day life? Like, I would definitely be up there for taking it, for sure. I mean, if it was something different, if it was like, okay, we inject you with this and you are never autistic again, no. No, I have lived my life too long at this point and become comfortable finally in a place where I'm at in my life with the things I do and all of that. You're not taking that away from me. You're not turning me into a whole different person at the age of 35 and leaving me to cope with a whole sensory experience I've never had before. No. But if it was just a pill that only affected you for one day and you could choose the next day, do you take it again? Do you not? Oh yeah, I'd want to know. I would want to experience the trip of being neurotypical for a day. I really would. Another thing that I think would be interesting would be, oh my god, executive function. Hi. If you don't know, executive function is trying to get done the daily tasks that most people just get on with. But if you have this executive functioning problem, which a lot of autistic people do, you just end up putting things off. You just can't do it. It's just this mental block and you just can't do these things. So things like that for me, I hate changing my bedclothes. I hate changing my bed linens. Like, it takes me, I try and do it every week, but sometimes it could take me an extra 2 weeks to psych myself up to doing it. Tidying my room, obviously, is another one. I can't do that. Anything that I just find stressful or difficult or boring, it just builds up, and it can literally be a year or more that I have been intending to do something. And the same thing goes with friendships, that I can mean to hang out with someone but just find it stressful. I put it off for like a year or more, and apparently this is quite typical. Like, I've got a therapist at the moment who's an autism specialist, and she says this is quite typical, that for autistic people, you can often have a friend and you've maybe not seen them for 3 years, but to you feel like the friendship should still be the same, and you phone them up and you're like, how are you doing? And they're like, it's been 3 years, like, what? But for you, it's been this executive function thing for like so many years that they've been on your mind and you've been thinking of them, but to them, time's moved on and they've left you behind, and they haven't heard from you in a while. They think you're not interested. They think you've ghosted them, and so that would be interesting. If I could take a neurotypical pill, and would I suddenly be able to get all my chores done? Would I be able to tidy my room and change my bed covers and do all the things that are on bloody post-it notes all over my room trying to remind me to do them? There would be so many things like that would be really interesting. But yeah, at the end of the day, how much of myself would I really be if I suddenly turned neurotypical for a while? I would be worried that I would suddenly be overtaken with huge regret that I had wasted my life, because very neurotypical desires I feel like might just hit me like a freight train. So the obvious things, as I say, are friendships, partners, and then kids. Most neurotypical people do seem to have this baffling obsession with having kids. Obviously there are neurotypical people that choose to stay child-free too. It's not all autistic people who choose to stay child-free, but most neurotypical people do seem to have a huge longing for kids, which I've never really understood. I mean, I'm 35. I have had the biological clock ticking things. I have had moments of feeling really despairing about never having kids. I have had moments of desperately wanting kids, but I have always known that it is completely illogical, that it is a biological thing, and that it is not me talking, and that I would regret it vastly if I was to have a kid. But if I suddenly turn neurotypical and I'm 35, I'm at like peak biological clock ticking age, I think I would suddenly be in this enormous flap about, like, we need to find friends because I'm so lonely. We need to find a partner to procreate with. I want to have a white wedding. I want all these normal things that most people want. I want. Would that happen? I don't know. It's like, how different would you be? Or would I just be me, but obviously I'd be better socially, so my family relationships would improve, my friendships would improve, my executive function issues might go away, so I would live in a tidy house, woo, and you know, I might be a bit more emotionally, I think I'd be a lot more emotionally stable, so hopefully I would be less reliant on medication, less reliant on drugs, less reliant on self-destructive impulses. Maybe I would be able to be, although Asperger's makes you very independent, maybe I would be able to be more actually independent. Maybe I would be able to move far away from my family and start the life that I always actually wanted to have, but have always been too up and dented to have. Maybe I would be able to do that, but would it be worth it at the cost of losing everything you've had all of your life? Like, as I say, my sense of smell, like my perfumes, my whole perfume collection, I wouldn't smell in it the same things that I smell in it. All the richness would be gone. And would I feel the same about my characters as I feel about them now? And I love my characters. My characters have literally saved my life. You know, when I was an alcoholic and I was suicidal, the thing that honestly made me stick around was the fact that if I die, my characters die with me, and they haven't been published yet, and I don't want them to die. So my characters mean the world to me, and I don't know if I'd feel the same about them. I wouldn't have this burning obsession, I don't think, with fictional creations if I was neurotypical. And also my characters are quite dysfunctional. I write quite dysfunctional characters, and I don't know if I would relate to them in the same way. I don't know if their sense of humour would work the same way for me if I was neurotypical. I don't know if I could get on their level and write them anymore. I might have to start everything over again. So honestly, if I could take a neurotypical pill, I would probably become a bit of a split personality. I would probably take it maybe just on the weekends, and I'd become like a neurotypical weekend warrior. I would use it like a recreational drug. So on the weekends I would take it, I would tidy my room, I would make some friendships, I would socialise, and maybe I'd start some neurotypical writing projects, some really publishable, you know, really easy access, kind of like chick lit, romantic things that neurotypical people, like the majority of the world, are going to find digestible. And then in the week I'd return to being my weird little Aspie self and enjoying smelling my perfumes and enjoying the sensory experience of everything. Or, as I say, my first point, the discomfort, the constant sensory overload discomfort that makes me so addicted to anything that numbs me out. Taking away all the sensory discomfort that I deal with constantly, that has fucked me up my entire life and that has driven me to every drug under the sun. If I could take a pill and it took that away, it might feel so pleasurable to me that I would never want to go back to it, even with all the downsides. You know, I have a hugely addictive personality. I've certainly taken a lot of drugs before that have made me comfortable despite having a lot of downsides. So maybe I would lose myself to neurotypicalism. Even though I would lose so much of myself, maybe I would do that constantly just to be comfortable and just to not have the overload. So I think it's a really interesting spiral to go down. But anyway, you guys tell me, would you try it out for starters? I think most of us would try it out, right? I think most of us would be intrigued to see the experience. Oh my god, and what if there was actually an autism pill? What if neurotypical people could try out being autistic? I think that would be cool too, if we could just like role reverse for a while and everyone could understand each other a lot better. Like, seriously, I think it would really help all of our family members who are neurotypical understand us so much better if they could just take a pill for a few days and just realise, you know what, I have no desire to socialise. Everything is an overload. Suddenly the things that I liked, I can't stop doing. They're completely compulsive to me and I can't put them down, and I completely abandon all my other things, and the things that I find unpleasant, I just solidly can't do them. It's like there's a solid wall and I can't push through it. It would be really interesting. So yeah, what do you think? What do you think your neurotypical people in your life would learn if they could become autistic for a few days? And what do you think would happen to you if you could just try out being neurotypical? What would be your experience? You tell me. And do you think I've missed any like glaring holes here? Like what there's got to be glaring holes that I've missed here, given it took me like minutes before I even figured, oh my god, like the social stuff, wow, you'd be able to like read people socially. Because the thing is, I feel like I'm actually quite good at reading people socially. I don't, like, one of the reasons I resisted my diagnosis when I was first diagnosed with autism, I was like, bollocks, I don't believe you, was because all I knew about it was that you can't read facial expressions. I was like, I can though. But when you're a female Aspie, your brain is quite capable of reading things better than most male Aspies can. So yeah, you can read facial expressions to an extent, but clearly there is a next level. Given I find females so baffling, like female neurotypical people I do find baffling, there is a lot I can't read there. So I've shied away from females for a lot of my life because I can't understand them. So maybe I would suddenly be able to like, oh my god, I understand women. And that would be cool. That would be a total superpower that would be really interesting. But anyway, this is a long waffle, so I shall shut up. Tell me your thoughts, and I'm going to go away. But if you have any other autism or Asperger related topics you'd like me to waffle on, drop them below and I will try and check back. Oh, and if you have been bothered throughout this video by my use of Asperger's and Aspie, and you'd like to tell me that we don't use that word anymore, I will link below my video about why I do still use the term Asperger's. You do have to let everyone be comfortable with their label, and all of that stuff is explained in the video linked below, along with a lot of other autism related videos which I will also link below, so you might want to check out the drop down box. But anyway, this is long. I have talked for a very long time. I'm going to shut up now, so thanks for tolerating my long waffle, my long theoretical, very colourful waffle. Over and out. Bye bye.